Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. We are going to finish off our playthrough of Crisis at Steamfall right now. We are in round number 3 and we're going to pick it up right where we left off with the beginning of the third round. We've already set up the whole board, so everything's already ready to go. And our main objective is to take out this pylon in this bottom left-hand district. So if we can get rid of this pylon and also still have some serenity left here at the end of the game, then we win. If the mechanized are able to basically keep this pylon in effect, as well as if there's enough of them on the board at the end, if we don't kill enough of them to be moving around and killing off civilians and doing other things like that, we could run into serenity. So what we really got to watch out for, because there's different ways you can lose serenity, is first off, if you're failing your crisis card. So this one here, if we actually choose not to do it, and I'm kind of debating skipping past it, because I'm finding that Jim Beam here is going to have a hard time getting the 4 guns he needs, or 4 weapons he needs in order to do this. Might sound like he shouldn't have a problem with that, but I've been debating whether he can pull it off. Actually, now that I kind of think about it, I might be able to swing that one. I might have to kind of go out of my way a little bit to make it work, but I might be able to do it. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to... We're starting off with Jimmy, but that's one of the ways, of course, we can lose serenity is that. The other way is when the mechanized activate at the end of the round, they could potentially kill off civilians that are left on the board, and we have quite a bit. Everyone that dies takes his serenity away. So you can see we could lose serenity 2 from here. We could potentially lose a bunch from all the different civilians on the board. Or, of course, we can also lose it from this one down here. It says discard 1 civilian in each area and gain a serenity for each, or lose a scenario, sorry, for each civilian discarded. So regardless, all of these civilians are going to get hit. So our goal probably this game is to get rid of this card for sure, so that if we do leave civilians on the board, we don't get hammered for it. Marcus is going to try to do this one as it's tough. He needs 8 scrap to get it done, and Marcus currently has 1, but over here we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we can get all this over into Marcus's side, and he can fly from way over here in the secret location all the way through to here, and then maybe use his vacuum cleaner ability, which allows him to pull up all of the gear, or sorry, scrap that's sitting in this particular token, then he'll have the 8 he needs to deal with this crisis card. So that's the hope. We're just trying to reduce the odds that serenity is going to be taken away from this area. So let's go ahead with Jim Beam's first turn. So I've been pondering this one because there's a lot of different ways I could go. One way that I could deal with this one, being that right now all of my weapons are very low on their power and things like that. I'm going to have to recharge them and things like that if I want to get them back up and running. What I could do is I could have Jim Beam, Jim M Beam, I've been saying Jim Beam a lot, move into here, and as soon as I move into here, I'm going to gain a bad mood, which will actually trigger him into this level, which will be 2. And then we could actually later on, depending on if we happen to use the correct one, like this one for instance, with the star at a later date, we can actually power up our fist and we would have 4, and that would allow us to, while holding the power shard, be able to deal with that, or the core shard, sorry. The fun part is the core shard is over with Marcus right now. And Marcus is, as I mentioned, sitting in this secret location. So we're going to need to kind of cross ties at some point and use a hand in order to pass that off to each other. So what I'm thinking of doing is I really got to make a choice here, because if I move Jim and Beam into this location, my plan with Marcus later is for him to actually swap places with his shade character here to get him all the way to this side of the board, and then use the rest of his movement to get into here. It's kind of a quick way to get him across the whole board, and he's not paying so much to go through all these heavy cost areas. Problem with that is they're basically going to jump past each other, and they're not going to crisscross paths. Because of that, I'm not going to be able to do an easy trade-off, because Marcus doesn't have a really cool ability like the Power Fist that can just toss an item across the map. So I need to find a way that these guys pass can cross, but it still be effective. All right, so I think I have a plan here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually have, and this may not work out. This is going to be the fun part. Can I actually make this happen? Another thing, just so you guys know or are aware of, we need 3 more energy tokens here placed on the core shard in order to power it up enough to destroy a pylon, which is this one right here. So that's how close we are to doing this. In order to get those on those charges onto this core shard, we need either 3 clues to exchange for each of these, or we could potentially gain them through card effects as it goes along, as long as it mentions specifically there's an actual terminology called the co-op shard, or shard of co-op. If we find that, then there's ways that we can power it up. But again, those are tough to find and they're more of a random chance. So we got to go for what is known. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have Jim and Beam probably do his movement. So in order to get him far enough along, we know we got to add one of these actions into one of these lanes as we normally do at the beginning of a turn. So I'm trying to debate which one I want to add in. Later on, it's going to be hard to know what's better. I don't think using this one's the best right now, so it's probably going to be... This could really come in handy at some point if I need an extra... let me see here. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll put that one there. We'll do that one. In terms of which of the actions I'm going to choose to do this turn, this is where it gets fun. So if I want to be in this location so that I can do some trading with Marcus when he arrives on his turn, I'm going to need to have 1, 2, 3 movement to get into here. So we're going to have to spend this line right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, which is then going to drop my mood down by 1, gaining us some extra violence, which is great. Our mood has been changed, and now we can move. So I'm going to have Jim and Beam head 2 across to here, and then 1 across to here. Now there's nothing else I could have done because, again, of how light I am on items right now. I do have the ability to encounter civilians for 4 gear, but again, I'm trying to hold on to my, I call it gear, but it's scrap. Trying to hold on to this because I want to be able to give this to Marcus as Marcus passes by me. So we'll see how that works out. So that is essentially the end of Jim and Beam's turn. Very, very quick. Now, Marcus, on the other hand, has a whole bunch of things that he could do. So going into his turn, the wonderful thing is that his mood is at the highest it could possibly be. So that's going to really come in handy for running into civilians. He's also got that really cool megaphone ability. It says, move a civilian token in a current or adjacent area to a district adjacent to that civilian. So I'm just going to read that again because I sometimes misinterpret that one. It's a little confusing, but move a civilian token in a current or adjacent area to a district adjacent to that civilian. So essentially, I could call this civilian really into the secret location and then you know, have a chat with him kind of thing. Or I could pull this one into this location. So essentially, it's saying move a civilian to an adjacent location. That's basically the only major difference there, or what would be most beneficial. So I could do that. It does cost me only 1 to do it. My passive is that I can encounter civilians in adjacent areas. So as we already know, Marcus can technically encounter this guy without using the megaphone. Doesn't have to. So the megaphone really's biggest benefit is dragging civilians from one side of the board towards him. That's what the megaphone's for. It's dragging all these characters towards him. And we know that those are going to be bad if we don't deal with them. So let's maybe deal with this civilian using Marcus. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to drop his hat by... Well, I guess technically we should probably start with the action just so we know what's going on here. So we want to fill this last row here. We have the ability to put 1 new action and add to the row. Probably going to go with this because it may give us this is always, the stamina is always handy. It's giving us kind of a wild action. So now we'll go ahead and spend 1 level worth of mood, gain 2 hats and a steam. So we'll go ahead and put that steam where it should be. Let's see. So he's got lots of steam, probably too much. But that steam can help him recharge things like his megaphone and stuff. The passive ability I'm doing right now is I'm going to interact with this civilian. So I'm going to take the civilian off the board. We're going to grab a card and see what happens. Alright, so I got this one right here at the very bottom. So it says discard this civilian and gain 1 workshop card. We gain a clue and we gain a serenity back, so that's awesome. If we have trickery, and I'd be highly amused if we didn't, we do, because we have the remote tentacle, has trickery keyword there on the left. So because of that, if we do it this way with trickery, use him as a distraction, we can move any mechanized to its adjacent area and gain a clue. Ooh. We don't really want to use him as a... Oh, I see what's going on. So that's going to prevent when the mechanized activate at the end of the round, it will focus the mechanized target priority on the civilian. So using trickery basically allows us to put maybe the civilians into corners so that the mechanized will go to those civilians and kill them off before going to the home base or something like that, or it may just be strategic. But I don't really know if we need that. I like this top one better. So I'm going to go ahead with the top one here. So discard the civilian and gain the workshop card. So we'll take a workshop card. We got ourselves steam powered. So this is that's actually really good. So 1 steam to 1 energy. That's actually really good for Marcus because Marcus has a ton of steam. So I can generate energy now. Now the thing to note with this one is if I do go ahead and add it on, you can see here that it's going to be applied as kind of an addition. So it has two of those little bars. I would have to actually connect it to something else, and we'll have to talk about that in a bit when I actually use the gear icon or engineering to do so. But that's actually not bad at all. So it's a workshop item. It's called the power module. That's really handy. So we're going to take that, definitely. What else do we get? We get the clue, I believe. Yes, gain a clue and a serenity. So let's put a serenity back in this area, and that's always going to help us. And then we're going to gain ourselves a clue, and we'll throw that other one away. So the clue pile is way over here. So Marcus has got a clue. Perfect. This clue is actually on the secret location. All right, so that's that. Now, Marcus, what shall you do? Should you drag more people over here? Maybe I should just deal with all the civilians. It would be silly not to, right? So if I go for the megaphone here, this is where the passive ability allows me to do civilians that are adjacent to me, but the megaphone, if I start using one energy, which I might do right now, I can start dragging civilians from one area over here to another adjacent location. So I'm going to move a civilian token in a current or adjacent area to a district adjacent to that civilian. Now, the one thing I'm noticing here is it may not move a civilian token in current or adjacent area. Oh, okay, so maybe I can't impact this one because it's too far away from me. It's too far away. It's not saying that I have to be adjacent or in my current area. So that I don't know if I can do. So I don't think I can actually call it as far as I thought I could, the way that's written. So move a civilian token in current or adjacent area. Yeah, to me it would be my assumption. To a district adjacent to that civilian. Oh, okay, interesting. Or maybe what you're trying to do with that is actually push them further away from mechanized. I don't know, but either way, it's not adjacent to me at the moment. But if I do some movement, it would be. So let's go ahead and talk about that. What are we going to do as an action for Marcus during my turn? Maybe some movement would be wise, so we can actually interact with all those civilians. So the first thing, though, is I got to be smart about this because I do want to do a really cool swap with my shade at some point and hopefully have enough movement to be able to go 1 and then 2, 3 into this area. So I need 3 movement at the bare minimum, so that would force me to have to go this route right here. If I do that, using 1 movement, or sorry, 2 movement to get into here would actually... Ooh, but if I switch to here, these are adjacent. So no issues there. Let's go ahead and do it. So let's go ahead and use, where is that wonderful card? Right here. So move to a passage device or switch the areas between you and your shades. We're using the Channeler's Staff, and we're going to use 2 power, as it states right there, to actually make that happen. And that's going to basically allow us to switch places with our shade. So our shade is actually counted as being here. We don't even need an influence token actually anymore because it counts as an influence token there. Then Marcus is going to show up here. This is where things get interesting. I don't have a hand because I did choose that I wanted to do this action, and I will be using those very shortly. But the cool thing is you don't need a hand in order to exchange resources like gear. So I'm going to have all of, or scrap, I keep saying gear, all of the scrap is going to get moved over to Marcus. So now Marcus has a total of, it would be 2, 4, and I could flip one of these to make it 6 and get rid of the 1. So now we have a total of 6, which is getting me closer to dealing with the infected rats. The next thing we need to think about is, well, this is where it gets interesting. The cool thing is Jim and Beam has the ability to throw me the shard when I need it in here. So I don't need a trade action. I can continue on doing what I want to do. The first thing is the action is a star. So if I have anything that's a star can benefit me, I can do that. I'm just looking really closely through all my cards, and I think it's way up here, the shade. Move the shade to an adjacent area even if not connected. That's all I can do. So I can shift the shade around. I don't know if I'm going to be doing this anymore. It could be useful. I kind of want to leave them there. It would be silly to move them anywhere else, so I'm not going to do that. So the star kind of ends up being a waste, but I can use the 3 movement to move Marcus 1 into here, and when I do that, I have the ability to use Steam, actually, to jump to any space that I want. Ooh, maybe I should do that, because then I can jump into here and then go into... Ooh, I would be just shy of being able to get into a secret location. Oh, that would be so cool. That's not going to work, because this is any tile, not a secret location. Too bad, because That would have been perfect. So that's one movement. I guess I have only 2 movement left. It doesn't give me many choices. I might as well just head into here. So now that I'm into here, I guess, sorry, the last thing I'll do, because I just forgot about this, is I want to interact with some of these civilians, because I don't want to leave civilians on the board. My mistake. So let's go ahead and knock this down once to talk to this civilian up here and find out what's going to happen, because again, I have that passive ability through the megaphone to be able to do so adjacently. So this says, speechless meme, discard or move the civilian to any district, gain 2 clues, a steam or a serenity. I will definitely take the 2 clues, because we are trying to get our core shard powered up. That's actually going to give me enough to power up the core shard. We get a steam as well on top of that. So let's go ahead and grab a steam. I've got so much steam for markets, it's outrageous. This is a stack of 6. What else we got here? If we have trickery, we gain 2 more scrap, and you may escort the civilian instead. I'm not going to do that because I want to get this mission over with, and I don't want to add too many more quests. I actually already have 2, and most you can have for civilians is 2, unless I want to discard one. So I'm going to skip past that. But it could be something that would be cool. But I do gain 2 scrap, so it's really cool that that happened, because now I have the 8 I need anyway without even having to pick stuff up in here. Perfect. And the 8 I'm referring to is going after infected rats, which are going to spread throughout the city and start killing off all of the civilians later. Okay, so that was done. So we'll take that card and discard it. The next thing I'm going to do is... and another thing I noticed here is I have an influence token on the humming pyramid, which says you gain 2 clues whenever you spend at least 2 mood. So, because I'm spending mood like a madman right now, and I just did 2 in a row at the same time, and I'm spending 2 because I'm doing 4, and when I'm doing 4, essentially 4, if that makes sense, is I'm here, and it cost me 2 to talk to the civilian that was here, and 2 to talk to the civilian that's here. So because of that, I gain another 2 clues. So that's even better. All right, so we're now up to 5 clues, and we'll interact with this civilian now. That megaphone is super handy, allowing us to talk to so many different units around the board. Please be good. Escort the civilian and gain a workshop card, or discard the civilian and gain a serenity. I will discard and gain a serenity because I want to beef this area up. I can get a max of 10. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, so I'm 1 away from having the most I could have there. If I have elegance, I can reveal the top crisis card. Not useful because there will never be any more crisis cards going forward anyway. All right, so we're now there. And now we can do our movement. So the movement that I had, that I kind of backtracked on, 1 into here, 2 into here. Now from here, what I can do is I'm going to use the vacuum cleaner, and for 2 power, I'm going to pick up all of the gear, or scrap, keep calling gear, in that area. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up this. I'm going to pull it up, it's kind of like the vacuum cleaner, sucking it all up. We've got a mechanized, elite mechanized in here, as well as a regular one to deal with at some point. We needed 8 of the 8 scrap and the core shard in order to finish off the infected rats quest and stop them from discarding a civilian at the end of the round and destroying our serenity in the town. So thankfully we do have that now because of how we played this. So we got 4, 6, 8 going back, and just like that, and we do have the core shard, of course. This crisis card has been resolved, and we're going to gain ourselves a renown, which is awesome. So that renown could potentially be good for, I don't know, we have to take a look. We can do this one. So renown allows me to move another character from any area instead of yourself. That character gains... Oh, so I can basically use the Chandler staff, but then choose another character to use it on, essentially. That's really cool. So I have to power that up a little bit more, but this will basically be used on this card if I choose to in the future. The other thing I can do here with the core shard, which I definitely don't want to forget, is I'm going to go ahead and start powering it up. So I'm going to use 3 clues in order to power up the core shard another level. So now the core shard is 2 away from having enough to take out this pylon. So we're powering up so we can just blow this thing up. We have 2 more. We only need 1 more. And actually, just now that I remembered, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that clues cannot be exchanged between characters, because I do have 2 clues on Jim Beam. So when we were here, you would think that we'd be able to swap those, but clues cannot be traded for free. So that's the downside with that. We're going to have to actually bring Jim and Beam into this location, maybe head our heroes into these to gain some extra clues. Try to get this thing powered up in time before everything goes haywire with the mechanized. So We are now in here. We've used all of our actions. We used a star, all 3 of the feet. We used a whole bunch of item cards and their powers. We've already powered up the core shard. I don't think, if I'm not forgetting anything, there's anything else useful to do. Let me just take a quick look through my cards here to see if I'm missing something. I think I got it all. I can't do any of these relics right now based on my card. I could have done the hat one, but again, not useful. We'll see how this pans out in the next turn, but I think I'm happy with how things have landed. So that's going to end Marcus's turn. Oh, wait, let me think about that again. No, that's going to work, I think. So the only thing that's bad now is that the core shard is in here, and Marcus needed it to deal with his up here. So this is one where the Serenity, I might just have to suck it up and not go after that Crisis card because of the way how things panned out. But anyway, we're going to go back to Jim and Beam. So one card that I haven't put on Jim Beam yet is a really cool multi-tool, which if I pay a hand, will allow me to basically use hands to gain power and then power to gain engineering, all that good stuff. But we need to choose how we want to play him in this second turn. So what I'm probably going to do is we got to add something else to the pile. So maybe I'll put a hand on this one, so we're almost completing this. The coolest thing about this game is the fact that this whole setup here will always change every time you play it. So if you replay it over again, you can set up the actions how you want. It definitely gives you a whole bunch of interesting choices. Okay, so there is one thing that I noticed on Jim Beam that I might have goofed up on. I went ahead and I bumped the mood. Now, when we started this third round, the mood was here for Jim Beam. But I had it here, and I don't know how that actually happened because the only way that would have happened was going through this location. But if I remember correctly, on the last one, we had the action token here, and we used 3 steps. 3 steps could have only been done this way. And so because of that, we would have never boosted our mood up. I might have pretended while I was talking to you guys that we could have gone through here, but it didn't happen. So I shouldn't actually be here. I should be here. But it's not going to matter too much because if I go ahead and use some movement right now, which I'm going to, I can actually go ahead, if I do this correctly. Well, maybe I'll actually do this one instead. I'll do this one instead. This is actually a really good one. So it's going to allow me to use a star. It's going to allow me to use 2 movement. And it's going to allow me to... Actually, no, I have to do this one. Sorry for what I plan on doing. My mistake. So I'm just going to bump my mood to where it should have been, which is where it was when we started this. So now I'm prepared. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to use 3 movement. And we're going to have Jim Beam go from here to here. Now we're actually going to take a legitimate mood drop on top of this down to here. So now we have tons, which is enough to go ahead and deal with this Crisis card later, if we get the core shard in his hand. And then with the other movement that I have, as that was only 1, I have 2 more left. I'm going to actually spend 2 to go into this secret location, which is awesome. And when we go in there, we gain the clue right away. So that gives me 3 clues, which is perfect. This workshop card we don't get unless we pick it up, but we do get to flip this over and find out what spawns in this area. We're going to go ahead and there's going to be 2 steam that's going to show up in here. So that's good. So there's some steam tokens if we want. This is called the Under Pipes location. So it looks like when we move in here, we've got steam that we can gain, or we gain a steam when we move in. So right away when we head into here, we're going to go ahead and take a steam. This workshop card sits in here. And then this one says if we put an influence token on at the end of a round, we gain a steam, but that's not really going to matter for us because now normally if this had happened earlier, we would put this here to say we have influence to use that later. I'll take the steam and put it in his area. But hey, we got a clue, and that's 3 clues, and 3 clues is something. So we need to power up the core shard. I need to get this core shard into my hand later on. So this is I have enough now to get this core shard to 3 power. We need 1 more after that. We actually only need 1 more clue, and then we've got enough to destroy this pylon. So this is looking better and better. So right now, that is going to be the end of Jim Beam's turn, because it was pretty straightforward. Movement and bad mood change. Done. Now we're going to head over to Marcus, a much more complex individual that I've built. And I've kind of done this on purpose for the playthrough because I wanted to have one character that was really over-the-top complex, and I really put a lot of effort into building this one up, and then keep one lighter. That way, for me, the gameplay flows, and I have roles. I have one guy who's charging through and fighting, and I have one guy who's kind of the tinkerer who's running around amok and doing most of the hard work, and Marcus is that character. All right, let's keep our eyes on the prize and head into one of these 2 secret locations, because I think at the end of the day, we know we need clues to power up this core shard, so let's just do that. Okay, so how we're going to do this is I'm going to probably have him go into here, although I could have him go into here, it really doesn't matter. Both of them are going to cost 3 to get into anyway, so I need something with 3 movement. This would give him a star. We know star is kind of a waste, but it's the only one with 3 movements, so let's do that. And the star is kind of a waste because, again, it was the shade movement, and I don't really have any reason to move the shade, so I'm happy. Marcus now can move into here, gain these clues, giving him enough clues to exchange 4 into keeping 1 to power up the core shard to 3, which is awesome. Let's see here. This is so cool. We're 1 away. 1 away. So what's under here? The secret lab. Oh, it's Marcus's secret location. This is really cool. So this is something I wanted to explain at the beginning when I set this game up, but there's actually secret locations at times that are specific to the characters you're using, and if you use a character, you have to actually randomly, when you're setting up the secret location, shuffle them in, because you may actually run into them. Now, the cool thing about this, you might be wondering, well, what is the use of it now? This is poor in the fact that I found it this late in the game, but you wouldn't know where it was anyway. But if you have an influence thing, it says you count as if having an item with weapon keyword installed. So basically, if I go ahead and put an influence marker in here, which I will, then from now on, I have weapon as a keyword no matter what, which is awesome. Now, the reason that this is really cool is that in Marcus's deck of cards at the very beginning of the game, he started with some stuff that nobody else really starts with. He started with, and I'll show you guys exactly those cards, right here. Marcus starting device in hand, missing part, there it is there. So this can only be installed in the secret lab location. When it's installed, then it would give, it can only be installed in the secret location, and then at the end of a round, you place power or energy on the shard of co-op. So this would have actually been a faster way to charge the core shard up if we had found the secret location earlier in the game. And this one here says it has to be installed in a secret location at least 4 movement points away from the central square. So this one we could have done anywhere, as long as it was 4 movement points away. But there's just so much going on with Marcus, I hadn't got to doing that just yet. So, long story short, cool, we found it. We also powered up the core shard, we have 1 clue remaining. Marcus's turn is technically done, because he's in this location. There's nothing else he can really do, or that I need to do. One thing you're probably noticing is that I've got a lot of... I've got a lot of these mechanized things here. We haven't killed some. So when we go into our 3rd round, I think what I'm going to do is try to get these guys into these rooms to potentially do some damage. I probably should use Jim and Beam to do that. I'm trying to debate which is better. This is tough. I'm going to have a lot of mechanized going after this central location, so this could be really dicey. But we'll see how it pans out. So we're going to go back over to Jim and Beam for the very last turn of the game. I can only put this in 1 spot remaining. We have 1 more cube left to use in terms of picking an action. Jim and Beam currently sitting in this location. In terms of best bang for buck right now, we need, well, we have clues. We need to get to the core shard. We need to take it from Marcus's hands. Marcus currently sits inside the secret lab. So this is where it gets interesting, because Marcus... Oh no, I'm actually just realizing here we're in a little bit of trouble, because the core shard says you can destroy a pylon in your current area. But currently I'm in a secret lab location with Marcus, and if I move Jim and Beam 1, 2 into this location, and then I move Marcus into here. So let me see. Maybe I will end up being able to use that cool missing part. Oh no, it would be a little too late at that point, because it's end of a round. Oh no, that's start of a round. I've been saying end of a round. My apologies, guys. That's an end of round. Sorry, beginning of round symbol. That's what that one is. The 3/4 of a pi. I've been playing it right, but saying it wrong. Okay, so for Marcus, there is actually a way out, and that's using Steam to gain either energy or power or the clue. So I can actually jump out of here and do so and power up my core shard enough to take this out. So now I'm not so worried about that. Didn't know how that was going to actually pan out, but I can do this with Marcus. In terms of Jim and Beam's turn, though, he's a little bit less useful at the moment, and that's really to do with the fact that he's kind of off in a secret area. There's no civilians next to him to shoot. There's nowhere that he can move fast enough in order to, actually have his actions mean anything. I only have movement of 2 at this point for the 3rd one, because in this particular row is only 2 feet, and that's as far as I can run, which only allows me to get into here, at best, gain another mood, and then kind of sit there. So it doesn't really do much for me. And because of that, it's going to kind of stop me. You know what? I think there is a way out of this one. I just thought about it. Yes, I think. Let me think about this here. Can I do... Yeah, that's actually not bad. This is a good idea. So we're going to go ahead like this. We're going to put a action cube here. This will give us a gear. A gear gives us 2 power on the beam rifle. We're going to use it right away, so I'm not going to put it on. So there's now 2 power on here. We also have, we get a shield, which gives us an extra, something we can use for anything. So I'm going to use this right away to actually move Jim and Beam into this area, making them much more useful to do any kind of shooting with his beam rifle, which has 2 imaginary power on it because I've run out of prototype tokens right now. The hand icon I have is going to allow me to put this card into play from his hand, the multi-tool. I automatically get to start with 2 energy on it, and I'm going to use that 2 energy for another gear, which will boost this total power up to from 2 to 4. So now I have 4 imaginary power tokens on here. If I spend 2 of them, I can fire support on to a mechanized and deal 1 damage, so I don't have to encounter them. There's no cards to anyone in my current area or adjacent, so I might as well fire them off and kill off one of the mechanized in an adjacent area. That at least helps the cause versus doing nothing at all. So that's good, because the more mechanized we kill off, the less chance they're going to go after the Serenity at the end of the game, or kill off civilians, which we haven't dealt with yet. Okay, so that is it for Marcus's turn. There's nothing else that he can do. So his 3 turns have been used. We're going into the very, very, very last turn. And it's all about powering up the core shard to take out this pylon. So we'll take the very last action thing here, put it in the pattern. We've filled it all up. And now what our goal is to get into here and start using steam. So we need some movement. We need 2 movement to get into here. That's all we need. We do have 2 movement on this one. So that's going to be where we have to go. We don't have much of a choice. So we're going to jump in there with 2 movement, so I'm going to choose that one because I've got nothing else to do. Mood's going to go down by 1. That doesn't really help us. We do get a stamina token to use for anything, so that could help us. We get 1 pickup symbol, so if there's anything in here worthwhile grabbing, it might be worth grabbing... well, before we leave here, we've grabbed everything we can. I guess I could grab this Steam token. Doesn't really hurt to have another one. I'm going to trade in the Steam token, 2 of them, to grab 2 more clues. And the 2 clues that I grab, I'm going to trade in 3 total in order to put enough power tokens on this to power it up. I have to borrow one because I've run out of prototype power tokens. So now there's 4 on the core shard. And now it says destroy a pylon in your current area. Each character gains an energy or power on 1 of his items, which we don't have to do because we're at the end of the round. So we have successfully destroyed, on the very last turn of the entire game, the 2nd pylon. And we do have some mechanized here as well, some ruins, things like that. But we have finally done it, so all these powers can go away. We'll throw those aside. Okay, and we're going to win. Now, I shouldn't say we're going to win. We still have to survive the end of round effects. And I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can. So we do still have a stamina to spend. We do have these sitting out here that we could deal with, or try to deal with. We don't have, remember with him, Marcus has this ability up here. It says exploring ruins is 1 less action or 2 less resources. So that's kind of where it gets fun. It's like, it drops all of the requirements on these. This one I could flat out discard if I get it, but I don't, there's no way I'm going to get it to the 5 violence needed for that. I don't have enough of the 4 hats. The gears are very close to being done, but I don't even have a gear one to use. Actually, no, I could. I could use the stamina for the gear, I guess. It wouldn't hurt. It's not going to help me, though. Really, it's the biggest problem. I want to kill mechanized, because they're the ones that are going to really put a pain on us. I do have the megaphone, and technically... Oh, and I haven't actually moved. Sorry, guys. So technically, my 2 movement, I should have actually moved into here. That's where I should have been when I kill off the pylon. But from here to the megaphone to here, I don't have enough hats to communicate with these guys and charm them into talking to me. So there's that. So yeah, maybe I just go ahead and deal with this, I guess. So we'll just use the stamina token just to burn it. I'm going to go ahead and deal with this rune. It only costs 1 gear because I have a really cool resonating artifact card up here. And it actually gets flipped over, but I gain 2 special cards. And now it's bumped up to 3. So now I've just gained 2 cards that I likely can't even use. But they're these ones right here. So I gained red cipher key, so I can break a red cipher. Actually, that one's not supposed to be in the deck. That is for... That's incorrect. That's got a symbol for single player. Actually, those are both messed up. Sorry, guys. Let me see here. Oh, sorry. I got it from the wrong deck, I think. Well, actually, you know what? It doesn't really matter. at this point it really doesn't matter because they're not going to add anything to my turn. My turn is done. So let's not worry about the cards because I think Marcus has enough cards as it is. We've destroyed the pylon. Really what it comes down to now is finding out whether the mechanized can actually make enough of an attack against our main district to kill us. If we lose all the serenity in this district, we lose the game regardless of the fact we took out the 2 pylons, which were our main objectives. So here we go. Let's find out right now whether we pulled it off. So the very first thing we'll focus on is the crisis cards. So the ones that we failed anyway, the ones we didn't complete. So what does this one say? At the end of a round, each character loses 1 stamina and 1 steam. So we're going to go ahead and end up losing a steam. We're going to end up losing a steam. We don't have any stamina to lose, but we also lose 2 serenity, and that's really the biggest kick in the pants. So this mechanical bird here went flying along and devastated the city, taking out 2 more from our central area. So now we are down to just 7 remaining, wondering whether we can hold out and win the game. All right, so let's resolve our mechanized movement. So the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to attack the players. So we'll start with this one because Marcus is in here with 2, but the actual player can only be attacked max once per player. So we'll just have this guy. He has 2 actions because he has 2 health. That's how the actions work. So one of them is going to be an attack against Marcus. We're going to flip a card to find out what happens. You take the middle section. It says lose a stamina. So again, not a big deal in a situation like this because we can't lose a stamina because we're at the end of the game. But if it was mid-round or whatever, that would be much worse. But that's the most I can actually be attacked. Now the mechanized are going to try to do something else. The next thing it will try to do is kill civilians, but there's none in here. Then it's going to try to move. So it can either move here or move here. It really doesn't matter when it moves. At this point, we can choose which direction, but this mechanized is essentially useless. He's moving into an area, but that's it. This one, on the other hand, has 3 actions, much more devastating, and sits between 2 different areas, one with civilians and one with a player. So this is where things get interesting. So mechanized prioritize which tile they'll go to when they've dealt with everybody in here, so they've already attacked Marcus, by how many are in one area. So right now, and this is when I'm talking about that, I'm talking civilians versus players. So Jim and Beam is here, but only counts as 1, whereas there's 2 civilians here. So our elite is going to go ahead and move into this area, and it's going to basically decimate these 2 civilians. So it's going to move in here, and by killing both of these civilians, that's going to reduce our serenity by 2 more, and we're getting that much closer to losing the game. We now have to just resolve this one way up here, and as you can see, there's nothing here and something here, so this mechanized will move from this location to here, make an attack against Jim and Beam, and it's actually you losing a workshop card, so that actually would be taking away one of his workshop cards that he has on him, which would be discarded. So it's not just always stamina, but we did survive. The mechanized stops here, and that's it. So because we were able to deal, and we win the game, because at this point now all the mechanized have activated, everything's complete. We killed off both pylons, so that is a big thumbs up. We have destroyed it. The pylons anyway, they saved the city. You can see how close it came down to, and technically, if I hadn't have had that megaphone to deal with 2 civilians here, 1 there, 1 here, everything like that, the mechanized would have spread out and hit them so hard and so fast that we might have actually been, it might have been a much closer game. We might have been down to 2 or 3, and we also lucked out that we were able to complete the crisis card in here as well. So anyway, tons of fun. Really enjoyed this one. We actually made it with a little bit of breathing room, but I actually got a little worried there at the beginning of the 3rd round that we'd even be able to pull it out. So this was really fun to play through. Lots and lots of decisions to make, lots of strategy. So I do like that. And the ramp up from starting the game is very simplistic. You can only do a couple things, but as soon as you start gaining a number of items, the amount of combinations that can ping off each other, kind of like a pinball machine, I guess would be kind of a good way to describe it. It's like one option opens up another option that opens up another option. It actually gets pretty heavy by the 3rd round. You've got lots of decisions to make to try to make the most of your actions to win the game, which I find really fun because it's a cool ramp up and excitement. So anyway, that is Crisis at Steamfall. That's the Kickstarter preview. I also have a giveaway for this particular game on the channel, which will be in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you saw anything I missed, which may have happened because this is a prototype copy, so it's not the final game, so not everything rules-wise is totally flushed out, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the playthrough. I will see you in the next one as we start something new and continue a few old ones. So thanks again for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.